Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, writers, scientists, educators, social scientists, government leaders. We speak to each one-to-one. I'm pleased to welcome Ruth Messinger, President of the American Jewish World Service, to the program today. She's been at the 25-year-old organization since 1998, after serving as Manhattan Borough President and longtime New York City Council member. She has been an advocate and activist since her student days. With a master's degree in social work in hand, she ran a child welfare agency in Oklahoma. Her mandate now is global, taking her from Darfur to Haiti to Sudan and everywhere in between. It seems that there's no end to the need. Welcome.
Thank you, Sheryl. Good to see you.
You're a third-generation New Yorker. Was your family committed to social issues and humanitarian causes?
Yeah, I think like many families, starting in my case with my grandparents, the notion was New York has been good to us, America's been good to us. So as we move up the income ladder, we need to remember to give back. We need to be good to the place that was good to us. And that led to a very substantial social justice concern on the behalf of my maternal grandparents and my parents. Most of that, not all of that, but most of that was like serving on boards of child care agencies, senior care agencies, and lending their professional expertise. Both my parents worked. My dad was an accountant and my mother was in public relations. But in addition to those jobs, they were very committed to both giving some money and giving time to agencies that serve people who were less well off. And my sister and I were very much raised in that tradition.
Now, you went to Brearley.
I did.
A private girls' school and one of the best in New York. Was it a rarefied atmosphere there? And did you come into contact with social issues as a student?
Good question. At that point, it was sort of a rarefied atmosphere for me. That is, the majority of young women, it's a girls' school, it still is a girls' school, were East Side, I was West Side. Jews were a minority. This was before the school had just begun to take its very first steps on racial integration. But I still felt different. Most of my class were, obviously people get their politics from their families, and most of my class were Republicans while I was fiercely campaigning for Adlai Stevenson. But I want to say that there are always teachers that influence your life, and the teacher at Brearley who taught current events and taught debating really helped to hone some of my own interests in social justice and the ways you make change.
Okay. As a member of the City Council, as Manhattan Borough President, and as a candidate for mayor, you're always an advocate for the disenfranchised. What was your proudest achievement as an elected official?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Give me two or three.
I've avoided questions like that for a long time. Well, I'll give you one that has not much to do with the disadvantage, but it has to do with, all of the population of New York, and that is we actually led the way, I know you know about this, in taking the first big steps to create the walking, running, bike path all the way around the island of Manhattan. New York City was way behind many other port cities in actually getting people to the water. And we chose to spend a lot of our resources in the Borough President's office doing that. That's one. The second one would be much less visible, but constant. Our planning office, urban planning office in the Borough President's office always lent its energy and its capacity and its skill to community groups and help them do their own neighborhood planning, help them get the information they needed to challenge some overly large developments, help them negotiate with developers for many changes in plans, including in several instances, we were able to require developers to set aside some units in their new buildings for people of moderate and low income. And other than that, I would say that an area that remains abstruse, but that of course is currently in the news on the federal level, and that is we did a lot of work looking at the tax structure of New York City, and particularly at the extent to which large, well-off developments and developers got tax abatements that they didn't need that took money out of the city coffers.
Okay. After you left elected office.
And one other thing.
Okay.
I was a critical mover in the New York City's campaign finance law, which has only gotten stronger and better as the federal government and the Supreme Court have damaged campaign finance legislation nationally. The city continues to have a very good and very strong law, which I'm quite proud of.
Now, after you left elected office, you taught at Hunter for a while. What did you teach, and what was that like, and what did you learn from your students?
Oh, I taught actually all the way through, all the time I was in government.
Really?
I mean, never more than one class.
Okay.
It was always something to do with urban politics and planning. At Hunter, I've had the privilege for many, many years of either teaching or making guest appearances in the program called the Public Service Scholar Program, which is a really unique program that picks about 20 young people, students usually in their third or fourth year, and gives them a year-long internship in city government or state government or with a not-for-profit, and then requires them to take some seminars to discuss what they're learning on the job. And I've pretty often taught the seminar that was in power and politics, and I loved it.
What drew you to the American Jewish World Service?
Well, partly I lost an election for mayor, so I was looking for a job. And I was really interested, I've always been interested in helping small grassroots community groups make change. We actually did a lot of that in New York City out of the Borough President's office. So here was a chance to learn a whole new universe of work, to learn that there actually is life beyond the Hudson River. And on the other side
Not
of
much,
the Atlantic,
but some.
yeah, there is, and that the world is full of small grassroots groups and indigenous leaders who, under circumstances much worse than those that you and I are more commonly familiar with, just set out to make change, to open up opportunities for girls, to deal with the HIV/AIDS pandemic, to figure out how to fund the earliest efforts at entrepreneurship through microfinance all over the world. So it was the notion of work with grassroots community groups, but in a very different sphere, in a place in which I'd have to learn a lot of new information to be able to function well. And also it was a job that used many of the skills that you develop in 20 years in politics, from public speaking to fundraising to staff management.
What kind of staff are we talking about? Do you have a lot of volunteers, or how does that work?
Well, when I started at American Jewish World Service 12 years ago, the budget was $2.8 million, and we had 13 staff people. The budget is now $34 million of our basic operating budget, and we have about 120 staff people. Volunteers is different. Of course, we have a few volunteers in our office. We have a very good summer internship program, but mostly our so-called volunteers are the people who go and do service in the rest of the world. So we have programs for 17 to 25-year-olds that go from a one-week spring break program to a post-college 10-and-a-half-month program. And then we have programs for adult professionals who are willing to give at least 2 to 3 months, maybe longer, to go and share their professional skills. So we're moving about 500 volunteers into the developing world for different lengths of time, working and living alongside villagers, sharing their expertise, lending literally their physical muscle. And partly we're doing this because it makes a difference to the groups on the ground, but partly we're doing it because we want to develop a much higher level of global consciousness and global responsibility in the American Jewish community.
What kind of, well, you told me what your budget is. Where does your money coming from, and is it harder to get these days?
Money's always hard to get.
Yeah, that's true.
Our money comes mostly from individuals, some from foundations, and a smaller amount from corporate foundations. We're proud to have a great base of supporters who give us small amounts of money, and then we depend, of course, on a smaller group of supporters who give us $1,000 or more, much more in some cases. I would say that money has been harder to raise in these last 2 years, and that's somewhat reflected in our rate of growth. But I think if you have a unique program and you manage it well, and you know how to be accountable to the people who fund you, then it's always possible to find dollars. And I would add that as an elected official, you spend so much time raising non-tax exempt money for yourself. It's a lot more fun to go raise it for women farmers in Pakistan or social change agents trying to educate girls in Cambodia, and it's tax exempt.
With the name Jewish in the title, do people misconstrue sometimes misconstrue what kind of
occasionally
organization it
but
is?
I think that's a piece of our job. We have Jewish in the title because our focus is on raising the Jewish commitment to global social justice and making our organization better known in the Jewish community, because we know there are a lot of people there who are interested in international issues and in global work, who may already be supporting other organizations because they don't know there's a Jewish vehicle to do this work. So that's our target audience. In the places in the world where we work, the grassroots groups that we're helping are not Jewish. They are among the most marginalized people in the world. We're helping them to expand their own human rights. And it's very exciting as an organization with a faith-based background to work in communities of Christians and Muslims and Hindus and animists, and have people for the first time, sometimes the first time, learn about Judaism. Sometimes they've heard about Judaism. Sometimes they might not think well of Jews because they've heard some stereotype. And we're, in a sense, the counter force. Through us, they come to see Jews as a people committed to social justice, which I think is the way we would like to be seen.
And you were in the news recently about a video that's on your website, the I'm Not Jewish campaign.
Well, I would say two things about that. Is one, first of all, maybe a couple things. We are indebted to Judd Apatow and Jordan Rubin, the writer, for agreeing to work with us and to do this video, which they had full license to do as they wanted. And we're incredibly indebted to them after the fact for their having done something that is so hilariously funny that, I mean, nobody's hardly ever seen any organization do a video that pokes fun at itself. And so it's getting a lot of viral attention because of that. It's been actually seen by just about 1 million people.
Wow.
And so that's been very, very exciting, and it's wonderful to have it. The only other thing I was going to say is for people of a certain age, it actually, I don't even know if Jordan and Judd know this, but it actually takes off on an old commercial that you might remember, which was the commercial for Levy's Rye Bread, which said, you don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's Rye Bread.
Ah, that's right. I do remember. We're going to take a short break. Then we'll be back with more with Ruth Messinger, President of the American Jewish World Service, after the following message.
Here we go. What? What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Ruth Messinger, President of the American Jewish World Service. Both the country and the world are in such turmoil right now. How do you decide where to go and what projects to take on?
Well, we have a grant staff now. What's unusual about us is our grant staff that makes the grant decisions are based in our New York office, because we don't send large numbers of Westerners to run organizations. But our grant staff travel back and forth. So if I have a team that's going to South Asia, they'll be there for a couple of weeks. They'll visit our existing projects in Cambodia and Thailand and Burma, and they'll look for new projects that we'll sort of get ready to support. And we stay with these small grassroots groups. We now have 468 of them in 34 different countries. We stay with them for a long time. But every year we are able to add new groups. And what the staff is looking for are groups that are about the development of communities and the expansion of people's basic rights. And we target the most marginalized people in the world. So women and children, immigrants and refugees, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, the community of people with disabilities. All of those groups exist, of course, in every country, in urban slums, in rural villages. And it's our job to find them where they've begun to come together and organize and look to assert their rights, and then to fund them and give them the technical assistance and maybe the volunteers they need to help them do that work.
Are you primarily a funder for these local groups, or as opposed to going in with your own people and doing your own work?
Right. Yes. Given that choice, we're a funder, not a Western group going in and running the show. But we do that because we are convinced that the way to make social change in the world is actually to listen to the people who live there, find out what their vision is, how are they working to expand their agricultural capacity in Pakistan.
Right.
What do they need as people dealing with the huge problem of orphan care in South Africa? And to listen to them, obviously to interact with them, to help them set and define their goals, and then to make grants to them. And one of the things that's really exciting is that an average grant size of $20,000 can change the life of a community where we work.
Now, I know when I talked to you maybe 5 years ago, you were very much involved in Darfur. I know more recently you've gotten involved in Haiti. Tell me about what you're doing in Haiti and how things are coming along there.
We have the capacity, it's not easy, but we have the capacity always to respond to crises and disasters as well as to maintain our ongoing portfolio. So I do want to mention we continue to be involved in advocacy efforts on behalf of Darfur and Sudan, and we were just instrumental in getting the administration, the Obama administration, to name a special envoy to focus particularly on the problems in Darfur during these next critical months in Sudan. But Haiti is a perfect example of our capacity to respond well to disasters because unlike most of the other groups that many people gave their money to, we already had a set of relationships on the ground. We had some 10 grassroots partners with whom we've been working on agricultural issues, on microfinance issues, on human rights issues over the last decade. So we were literally able, within 48 hours, to contact every one of those groups, hear from some of those groups, help them assess the individual damage, in a sense, to their organizations, and that almost every staff person lost family. People lost houses. Our in-country representative and consultant in Haiti lost his home and actually ran his work and lived out of his car for several months. But because of having these partnership relationships, we were able to start moving money right away in targeted, discrete, specific amounts, not more than a community could handle, but to let people bring in medical supplies or get access to a food distribution site. One of our great stories in Haiti was that 2 of our grantees in the Dominican Republic, so these are people who get funds from us to work on actually human rights and immigration issues in the Dominican Republic, contacted us. They all have Haitian backgrounds. And they said, if you can get us some money, we have a truck, we'll get another truck, and we think we can get a boat. And we'll start moving supplies in to places you tell us that help is needed. So that was like a spectacular move on their parts. First of all, they went across the border. It's a closed border, it's better now. But they went across the border without being sure they could get back into their own country, just stimulated to help people in need. Second of all, we found out very quickly that while there were some relief efforts springing up all over Haiti, there were all kinds of things that people really needed that weren't being brought in. Best example in this case was Pampers and feminine hygiene products. So they started bringing those things in, and now, although they imagined that as like sort of a quick run with relief supplies, these 2 groups have now moved people from the Dominican Republic to Haiti, where they're, in one case, giving extensive medical care, which they have the capacity to do in one of the camps, and in the other case, where they're teaching emergency response and disaster relief so that in the future, for whatever crises may exist, local people, Haitians, will know how to extract somebody from rubble, how to set a limb, how to handle and manage a disaster. So
you seem to have some high-functioning local groups, private groups in Haiti. But the government doesn't seem to function too well. Has that changed at all?
Well, I would say it's changed, but only slowly. You know, initially, I felt there was a reason to sort of try to create some space for the government. First of all, Haiti's not had a particularly functional history for 200 years, and a lot of that is the responsibility of the United States.
Absolutely.
We've supported the craziest regimes there. We've sent in the Marines several times to run the country. And the National Palace collapsed, and 30% of the ministers and the members of the legislature were killed. So you feel like, okay, people need some time to recover from that. That would have a devastating effect in any country. Now I think it's fair to say that it's still moving very, very slowly. The capacity of the government, and I want to say the capacity of these outside countries like ours that care so much to actually figure out how do you remove this much rubble? How do you run a safe election? How do you maximize access to clean water so that people don't start dying of cholera? Has been very slow. That, in a sense, has made our work that much more visible and critical, because where we work, where we pick an agricultural community to improve its food capacity because that will be pertinent to the people who are moving out of the city and going back to the country, that's working. Where we set up a brace and limb facility to deal with the 10,000 Haitians who lost a limb, that's employing Haitians and training them in what is unfortunately and depressingly going to be a serious piece of work over time.
Now, I know Haiti was promised, after the earthquake, was promised a lot of money by a lot of different countries. Have they gotten it?
No.
in a word.
In a word. Some of it, of course, has gone down. Some of it's gone down in in-kind aid. But this is an area where our advocacy work at American Jewish World Service is increasingly critical of our own country, because we've appropriated something like $2 billion for Haiti, but a great deal of it has not yet gone. I understand that it's a challenge to figure out how to route it in, how much to give to the government, but it's moving very, very slowly, and we are trying very hard, Sheryl, to add a particular phrase to the Haiti appropriation bills, and that is local procurement, because there's every reason in the world why U.S. dollars should go to buy food to bring to the food distribution centers for the over 1 million people that are still living in tent camps. Instead of for us to pay our tax dollars to ship in food, which, by the way, then undercuts the capacity of Haitian farmers to sell their goods.
Right. What kinds of activism are you currently involved in this country?
At American Jewish World Service, we have a small public policy office in Washington, which works in a magnificent set of coalitions with other international development and relief and human rights organizations. Right now, I would say this issue of local procurement for Haiti, this issue of trying to ensure that the referendum in Sudan in January is conducted peacefully, and that after the referendum, civil war and cross-border wars don't break out. So we've been doing a lot of ongoing Sudan advocacy. A real concern for funding, both U.S. funding and UN funding for AIDS, TB, and malaria. And this broader question then of foreign assistance reform, which didn't move in the last Congress in the way we hoped it would, but which was in the president's inaugural speech 2 years ago, and we hope will come back into focus. And that is, how should the United States give foreign aid? How should we be maximally sure that it goes where it's needed in ways that empower people and do not make them unnecessarily dependent on outside aid?
So you have obviously been able to continue to engage in the kinds of issues that you've always been engaged in, only on a global scale.
I hope so. That's my intention.
Okay. Well, we're going to wind down. I want to thank Ruth Messinger, President of the American Jewish World Service, for joining me today. For more information about the organization, you can go to their website, ajws.org. And right now, we're going to look at their latest promo. So for the City University of New York and One to One, I'm Sheryl McCarthy.
AJWS was a major responder to the Indian Ocean tsunami, supporting 82 grassroots organizations over the last 5 years with more than $11 million raised from 42,000 donors.
AJWS was one of the first responders in Haiti. Still no luck getting Sean Penn circumcised, though.
I know what you're thinking. I've already given enough money to charities this year. Well, newsflash, downloading the Angry Birds app on your phone doesn't count as charity.
Jews are givers. They see people in need. They may be pushy about it, but they're gonna help you. They may be annoying as they do it, but they will do it. You know, it's like somebody's saving you from a fire, and the whole time they're saying, you had to wear that sweater? I gave you a red sweater. You're wearing the blue sweater?
People often come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, Sandberg, I didn't even know you were Jewish." And I say, "Really?" And they go, "No, not really. Look at your gigantic face." And then we just laugh and laugh. And then I go, "All right, talk to you later, Ryan Seacrest."
So call the number at the bottom of your screen.
There's no number.
So text dreidel to 90999.
No.
Send a self-addressed stamped matzah to...
Mr. Mayor, please.
I support this organization because it fosters civil society,
sustainable development, and human rights for all people, not just Jewish people or African American people like me.
The AJWS helps people of all religions all over the world alleviate poverty, hunger, and disease.
And that's something you don't need to be Jewish to support. I mean, unless you're a total prick.
AJWS is really just not an easy acronym, is it?
It's confusing. It's like saying California, United States, Lutheran Earth, Service of the Moon.
Is it a world thing? Is it a Jewish thing?
It's got to be punchy. Like, you know, MS, boom. TMZ, boom.
Something simpler like Jews helping Goyim.
Maybe next year, if you guys thought about maybe changing it to Jewish American World Service, because then you're Jaws. And then you can have Jaws Week. On Discovery Channel, they have Shark Week, you have Jaws Week, and it's all just Jews.
I am not Jewish, but I still fully support American Jewish World Service. Why? Well, as our friend Tevye said, tradition. He also went on to say, yabba diddy dibby, yada yada dibby diddy dum.
I just want to say you should only have mazel on this anniversary and nachis from this occasion.
Shalom, Meshuggah.
Bubula.
Mazel tov.
Kluppen Taylor Matel Kamzoil.
Challah bread.
If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.